Brian in Texas. Brian, you are on the line with Jimmy and John. How's it going, Brian?
I'm good. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. First of all, thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. Also, thank you for talking about a subject that you guys probably didn't expect to talk about tonight. So,
we always expect trans stuff to come up every show, even though we have a trans dedicated show by trans people each week. It just happens. It happens constantly. So don't you worry about that.
Yeah. Okay. Also, just to let you know, I'm just really in this for the discussion here. I'm not interested in calling you names or
talking about the mole on my ass.
I'm genuinely interested in the discussion. So, I wanted to talk about the trans ideology, and I think you had said before that you used to think that it was an ideology and you don't anymore. But I wanted to talk about that and why.
I think it's more. I used to use the phrase trans ideology, and now that phrase is loaded up. Depending on how you describe ideology, the definition of ideology doesn't really. This the word ideology alone. It doesn't really fit. Universally, the concept that trans people exist, the gender spectrum, the sort of psychological and scientific basis, you wouldn't consider a type of ideology. If you want to say that there is a trans ideology referencing the seeking of equal rights for trans people and describe that as trans ideology, then certainly I would concede that ideologies are generally collections of ideas that sort of direct political theory. And in that case, you could use it. Nobody's using that way. People are trying to use the term ideology to more mean like a religious belief, that it's a sort of almost even faith-based belief, because they want it to be equivalent to Christian ideology, not like, you know, you wouldn't use the term to say like depression ideology when talking about some sort of psychological term, for example.
Well, let me just get into why I think it is an ideology. And basically, there's a couple different pathways to trans. So I'm not necessarily talking about people who have autogynephilia and then they adopt trans ideology as a way to, convert.
I think you're going to need to take a step back and define ideology if you're going to go down this route, Broski.
So it's just, it requires belief in something. So like if you look at homosexuality.
The term ideology is, wait. So the term of ideology just means you believe in something?
Well, let's not get hung up so much on the term here. Let's just.
Absolutely, we're going to get hung up on the term. Defining terms is actually a pivotal part to both conversation and debate. So why would we not define the central term to the topic you are calling in about?
Okay, so
you're telling me you're going to defend trans ideology does exist and that it is an ideology, and I say, okay, what is an ideology separate from it? And you don't want to tell me?
Okay, it's a system of ideas, right? That's an ideology.
That's not the term. Okay, sure. Yeah. So do you believe you're heterosexual?
I mean, I am, but that's the point.
Okay, do you have an idea that you are heterosexual?
Homosexuality doesn't require belief. It doesn't.
Are you practicing? Of course it does. Of course it does. What do you mean it doesn't? What? Do you believe you're heterosexual?
Well, I am, but homosexuality doesn't require.
But do you believe you are?
And it doesn't require everyone else.
You don't know how words work, and you want to sit here and talk about trans ideology. Of course you believe you are. You could say no, but knowledge is a subset of belief. I know I'm heterosexual. Fine. That's still a belief.
We're keeping it civil. I'm not here to insult you.
Where have I gone uncivil?
I'm just telling you, saying I don't know how words work.
Correct.
keep it
You
civil
are
here.
not
None of
using the
this is
terms
helpful.
correctly that you are in here. For example, you just said ideology is just a system of ideas, which is not the way that it is used at all. And you are now being pedantic and trying to deny to prove the point that you are too broadly using the term because you're trying to get ahead of me and where it's going to go.
Trans ideology requires that a person believe that there's a metaphysical sex and a biological sex.
Incorrect.
And
No, what?
Hang on.
That doesn't even
Hang on.
make
Hang
sense.
on. Arden, do you believe there's a metaphysical sex?
No.
Oh, well,
That's
the
like
trans
a
woman who
refer
is
to-
present doesn't believe in a metaphysical sex, and yet I believe you would describe Arden as accepting trans ideology. Which way are you going to show you know how words work next, Brian?
So they believe that there is a biological sex,
She,
sex that's not biological.
gender.
No.
She
it's not-
believes in.
I'm sorry. I know that I'm just some cis white hick here from North Alabama, but like you're trying to equivocate gender with some kind of sex so that you can force gender
Okay,
as a
so they
sex
refer to it
attribute,
as-
which is just not. Am I wrong about this? Like that's what he's doing.
How would he know? He doesn't know what's
No.
right.
The purpose of the whole point of someone who is trans is that their biology, they believe their biology doesn't match their I mean, I don't know how else to say it besides a metaphysical sex, the way they think of themselves.
You
Well,
just
then
say
if you don't know how,
gender.
hang on, Brian, I'm glad you just said that you don't know how else to say it because you are actually making my same point. You don't know how else to say
I mean,
it,
if they
even
call it
though
gender,
those terms,
then
Brian,
it's
don't interrupt.
gender,
You don't
right?
need to. Brian, the reason you don't know how to say it is because you are so ill-informed on this that you don't know that this language
No.
is readily available and 101 class level shit.
Does a transgender person believe their gender is different than their biological sex? Yes.
What is,
Correct.
first of all, biological sex? That wasn't the term you made. You wanted us to concede to metaphysical sex.
Yes. The way they use gender is their metaphysical sex. It's something that cannot be
No,
measured.
there is
Not
no
something
such
that's
thing as
true.
a metaphysical. That's not, what are you talking about? Metaphysical does not refer to all things which cannot be measured.
A trans person believes that their biological sex does not match their what?
Is depression
Their
a
gender.
metaphysical experience?
Their gender, right? Their biological
Is
sex.
depression a metaphysical
matter.
experience?
No. Stick to the
Is
point.
depression metaphysical?
Their biological sex.
Is depression
match
metaphysical?
their
I
gender.
can keep repeating myself too, and we'll only proceed once you answer mine. Is depression metaphysical?
No, there's actual.
Is
physical
happiness
things.
metaphysical?
No.
Oh, so what you're describing are things which can't be measured, but can only be the reported
I-
experiences of individuals, and yet they're not metaphysical.
Happiness can be measured. Depression can be measured.
Give me the unit of
But
measurement.
anyway, regardless.
Oh, I
regardless,
would say but anyways and try to get off of there real quick too.
You haven't answered my question. You're the one avoiding
I don't
my
care
question.
about your
Does a
question. Your
trans-
question is real dumb.
The question is dumb if a transgender person believes that their biological sex doesn't match their gender. That's a dumb question.
If we have to still concede that gender means metaphysical sex, yeah.
Yeah. So you're trying
have to define
equivocate gender.
Go ahead.
I'm not
Sorry.
asking you to concede that.
No,
I'm trying
Brian.
to- the word-
Can we? Are you agreeing that you were trying to equivocate gender with this quote unquote metaphysical sex, which is not a real thing? That's something that's been made up for the purposes of this call. Are you agreeing that gender is not metaphysical sex? Is that are we agreeing to that so that we can move forward?
I was implying that the way gender is used is implied as a metaphysical sex. Because gender
No,
is
it's not.
totally on
No, it's not.
biology.
No, you're trying to
Physical.
force the word sex into the conversation when it's really about gender.
A transgender person is generally going to be a person whose gender identity is not
Which is made up.
coherent with whatever they were assigned at birth by whatever doctor
No one is
pulled them out.
assigned. No one is assigned a sex at birth.
Yes, you absolutely are, because your chromosomes are. Yes, you are, because there are lots of people. Even if we get rid of every example of trans people, there are people whose chromosomal existence does not match what gets up on their birth certificate. There are people with penises with XX, and there are people with vaginas with XY. So yes, you absolutely are assigned at birth, and it is on a very basic level investigation of the genitals of a person.
No, their sex is identified as what it is.
Incorrect. Okay, let's say no transgender people exist. Let's say you're right that transgenderism is incorrect, or whatever you want to go with. Are there or are there not people who have XY chromosomes and yet no male main characteristics? They don't have a penis, they don't have balls, and yet they have XY chromosomes.
I'm not saying that there are people. I'm not saying that there are not people that think that their gender doesn't match their biological sex.
We're not talking about think. I'm saying let's have people whose brains never even turn on. If you go and investigate right now, by any definition of sex, could you actually figure out a person's sex purely based on investigating their body with no additional testing, even if you went to a limited... What is a male? To you, Brian, what defines a male?
A male is someone who has evolved to produce sperm. A female is someone who has evolved to produce eggs.
Great. And how? And when you are born, stop. When you are born, how do they investigate whether or not you evolved to produce sperm?
Well, most of the time, 99.9% of the time, they can just
see. This is the problem. You're already changing, and so for those people who that 99% doesn't work, the other 1%, are they given a sex? Also, is a sex recorded on their birth certificate too? Based on that same investigation. For example, would a person with gonads, with a person with hidden gonads and an unexpressed would a person who's shut the fuck up. Shut up when I am talking. You just can't stop. Because your whole point is you aren't assigned a sex at birth that is identified. And then you yourself said it works for 99% of the people, which I don't know if the number is 99, but most people would agree with that. It is most people, their sex is identified. And that if you look at their genitals, you're probably going to figure out which this term biological sex is a hilarious term. But of course, when we're saying sex, we're talking about biological sex. We're not talking about fucking the doctor. We know what you mean. That most of the time it's going to be the case, but you are still assigned it at birth based on that and any additional testing that could uncover that your story isn't actually quite so simple. And by the way, a significant portion of those people who evolved to produce sperm will also have evolved some genetic condition which prevents them from actually delivering those sperm. So even within your own definitions, there is a large spectrum. And this is before we even get to whether or not trans people exist. Brian, we're at the end of the show. It's 9:52. Call back the Transatlantic Call-In Show. You can literally talk to doctors, politicians, people who are like, this is what they do. But please, for the love of fucking the God you probably believe in.
Whenever they have a difference, whenever they feel like there's a difference between their gender and their biology, why is it that it's always the biology that's wrong?
Why is it that you thought you were going to get it? First of all, a lot of people, Brian, you're continuing. Brian, you are continuing. Brian, shut the fuck up. I'm trying to answer your question, but I'm going to start with, you are continuing to ask questions because you haven't bothered on Google. Because guess what? A lot of trans people also believe there are biological elements to the fact that they are transgender. They don't think it's a purely mysterious thing that they got through. And there's lots of proposals on different reasons why you might experience things like dysphoria. And of course, there are in the past other experiments that have shown interactions with different types of brain matter and the like. When you're saying it's not biological, what you mean is there isn't a penis and I want one, or there is a vagina and I don't. That's not the pure limitation of what would be biological or anatomical. You need to do basic level of listening to people other than, I don't care about your point and I don't care about you fucking talking over me, Brian. You are getting basic level shit so wrong. A biologist would be embarrassed even if they are anti-trans for some of the dumb shit you are saying. Stop listening to ridiculous people on podcasts being like, hey, by the way, here with my penis, which should be the most important thing to everybody in the world, here's what I think about the trans shit. And maybe first approach it with empathy and people going through fucking shit and be full of gratitude that you don't have to go through it, and then go start learning the fucking actual basics from actual authorities on the matter. And then once you do all that, call back and shut the fuck up when you're being spoken to and your questions are being answered. Thank you for waiting on the line long enough for me to say fuck off, go away.
They're one of the rudest.
But one of the, see, like, I can tell you weren't even listening to that because you were loading up the next fucking point. Go read a goddamn book. Jesus Christ, there are those things in that library Gaz was talking. Was it Gaz who said, no, it's the other guy who was long-winded about nothing.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck. Was there
There's
anything
an
else you
answer to
added,
every
Arden?
single, well, no, not necessarily. I think you were on a good path. There was an answer to every single thing he said. The only thing I wanted to object to was he brought up autogynephiles as a way to be trans. This is a thoroughly discredited typology, extremely old. Typologies in general are not really like accepted in like good science, at least not the way that one is presented. So yeah, no, he's just totally full of absolute bullshit.
I think I reacted to him saying it almost as like we're only at the beginning of the call, so I'm going to let him keep going, but we've already hit a fucking wall of absolute ignorance. This dude's brain is redacted. All right, people.
So my main problem with it was that he immediately started off trying to equivocate terms, and as a way to like force like a sex sort of centered view of the conversation. And
let's not forget him also trying not to define terms that he wanted to say. The term was the problem. Right. He called in saying his problem was with me saying I don't use gender ideology anymore. And then I defined why and expressed it and been like, there are legitimate ways you could. Nobody does. These are dog whistles. The phrase trans ideology. You could there is a trans ideology surrounding a political movement to get trans people rights, but it isn't the core of why trans people claim to exist, because anything which has a political theory to it is separate from the thing itself. Just as you could say there's white ideology. I believe the Proud Boys are the ones going forward with that. And yet to be white, I need not be a member of the white ideology people. It's just, learn what the words fucking mean. It was such basic level shit. I'm like, bro, I have to handhold through it's not like you're asking the question in good faith. You're asking it oppositionally. You're trying to like set it up with this phrasing where it's like, and how could, and to where it's, we would have to go back to the basics you are missing to correct how dumb your question is in the first place. I'm not even opposed to debating a fucking transphobe, but for sure a transphobe here's my deal, Brian. Here's how you can test it. You go to different anonymous forums on the internet and see if you can debate in favor of what you call trans ideology so well that you blend in and people don't realize that you aren't an exceptional debater at it. Only then do you have a chance at being the thing about, I think everybody who works at the line, and I hope we are using it too. I hope this is true of me as well. I think everybody here, to everything that they debate on the basis of, they could debate in a way that they could blend into their opposition as an elite. If you didn't know who I was, I think I could debate as a Christian, as a Republican, as a conservative, as a fucking sexist, as a misogynist, as a broverse. I think I could convince people easily that I am a good debater on their side. Hey, thanks for watching that clip. Did you know we saw what you were doing when you watched it?
We saw all of it. All of it. All of it.
All of it. So you're going to want to pay us hush money over at patreon.com/calltheline, where you can buy our silence and watch our patron exclusive podcast.